Let's come to a decision on a punishment for Jalen Carter's spitting incident from last week's opener when he spit on Dak Prescott and was ejected from the game. Adam Schefter reporting that Carter will be fined just over $57,000, noting that the ejection will essentially serve as a one-game suspension. He missed the entire game, meaning that Carter will be available to play this week. His agent Drew Rosenhaus said that his client will not appeal the decision. And more coming in here, more top stories starting at Pittsburgh. The Steelers have signed former Patriots safety Jabril Peppers, adding some depth and experience to that secondary, with safety Deshaun Elliott expected to miss some time with a knee injury. Peppers certainly could see some meaningful snaps sooner rather than later. And look who's at it again, Howie Roseman. The Eagles have traded for running back Tank Bigsby, sending their 2026 fifth and sixth round picks in the deal to Jacksonville. So Philly adds another weapon to that deep and talented running back room. They've been awfully busy. Got Zadarius Smith as well. Meanwhile, a developing story on NFL Live. The estranged wife of Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill has alleged that he committed domestic violence in 8 separate incidents beginning in January of 2024. That's about 2 months after they were married. The allegations were made in court filings related to the couple's divorce case. Hill has not been criminally charged, and it is unclear if police are investigating. Hill's attorney said in a statement that the allegations are part of a shakedown and an attempt to generate bad.
Is fining but not suspending Eagles D tackle Jalen Carter for spitting on Dak Prescott. So Carter was ejected on Thursday before playing a single snap, and that will serve as his one-game suspension, meaning that he will be able to play in the Super Bowl rematch against the Chiefs this Sunday. He is getting fined over $57,000, which is an entire game check. All right, let's welcome on our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones, to discuss this breaking news. JJ, ultimately, how did the NFL come to this decision to not suspend Jalen Carter for week 2 and saying that, hey, him missing that Cowboys game will serve as his final suspension?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It is a suspension. It's just time served is what the NFL is saying, because the spit happened before the first defensive snap for Jalen Carter and for the Philadelphia Eagles, that he effectively was suspended. Of course, he was ejected from that game. The $57,000 and change, that equals a game check. You take the base salary, you divide it by 18, the number of weeks in a season. That's how you get $57,000 for Jalen Carter in this fine. And so historically, the NFL has only fined players for spitting on opponents. There's not a whole bunch of these to look back on, but in the past they have been substantial fines. Usually a fine, a uniform violation is a couple $1,000. Hitting a defenseless player, $10,000 to $20,000. An entire game check, basically someone who is going to be playing for free, in the case of Jalen Carter this upcoming week, that is substantial. And so the league has put a great emphasis on sportsmanship this season. Of course, they started it last season. They told all 32 teams in the preseason how things were going to go. And then before he even played a snap, Jalen Carter exhibited some pretty poor sportsmanship. And so he effectively has served his suspension, and now he plays against the Kansas City Chiefs for free next week.
So, JJ, of course, he did serve that one-game suspension in week 1. So moving forward, is this, setting a precedent here? Like, if you spit on another player or do any sort of unsportsmanlike conduct to that nature, you're going to be sitting out at least one game moving forward.
Yeah, I think so. And if you're going to spit on somebody, do it early in the game so that maybe you get ejected and you sit out that game, right? I think that's sort of the guidance here, is that don't spit on somebody in the fourth quarter because you'll miss next week. But when you do spit on someone, do it in the first quarter. I kid a little bit, but I also do want to make clear the NFL has since put out an entire statement on this, explaining it. Typically, when someone is not suspended, which effectively he was not, right? Or when a fine happens, that comes out on Saturday. And so they put out this whole long 3-paragraph deal explaining everything. Well, they do not have any discipline included here for Dak Prescott. I know there was a conversation Thursday night into Friday about, well, Dak spit toward Jalen Carter, even though he spit on the ground. And so people thought that this was some retaliatory act by Jalen Carter, and that Dak Prescott should face some sort of punishment. I am not ruling out the fact that maybe the NFL will fine Dak Prescott, but if they were going to offer any punishment, one can assume that it would have been included in the rather lengthy statement that has been emailed out to everyone. So I would say, to the natural question of, is anything going to happen to Dak? Probably not, because it was not announced in the time where you probably would announce it.
Yeah, when those alternate camera angles started being revealed, it's like the story just got, a little bit more interesting, right? So JJ, part of this with Jalen Carter not serving a Week 2 suspension, he is going to be available. He will play for this Super Bowl rematch against the Chiefs. What are your expectations here for the Eagles when they have, all their guys on defense, and then based off of what we saw with the Chiefs and some of their struggles against the Chargers?
Yeah, the Chiefs did struggle in a game that, they were facing an opponent who always plays them tough. And so we have seen in years past the Chiefs not win in the season opener. A couple years ago, they didn't beat the Detroit Lions. And so they almost lost to the Baltimore Ravens. If Isaiah Likely could be in inbounds in the back of the end zone last year in Week 1. And so here we are in Week 2. And Jalen Carter, I don't think anyone would argue, is the best player defensively for the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, the Chiefs are going to have their hands full up front. I think we all hope, certainly everyone in Kansas City, anyone who is going to be watching this game Sunday at 4:25 Eastern, that you're going to get a better contest than what we saw down in New Orleans. I know the final score was 40-22. Anybody who watched that game knows that it was not that close, and that is not a close score. So we are all hopeful, of course, for a closer contest. I think that people are beating up on the Chiefs just a little bit because they started 0-1 against a Chargers team that, Harbaugh knows what to do with this group. Justin Herbert was unleashed. I do think people are being a little harsh on the Kansas City Chiefs right now, but without Rashee Rice, without Xavier Worthy, who we're not anticipating playing, they need a better run game than we saw against the Chargers. So certainly we will see coming up, but Jalen Carter will be in that game.
Yeah, and that O-line needs to protect Patrick Mahomes. That was a big problem the last time we saw these two teams meet. JJ, we certainly appreciated joining us here for that breaking news on HQ. Eagles money line. Again, that's all going down on Sunday at 4:25 Eastern. So it's a new week. We're looking ahead to Week 2, so that means we have a fresh set of power rankings from Pete Prisco. Of course, the Eagles still in that top spot. As for the Chiefs, they have fallen the biggest faller this week, down 5 spots to number 8 after that loss to the Chargers. So, of course, the defense, kind of a concern after we saw that matchup there. The Chiefs were able to stay inside of the top 10. We cannot say the same for the Lions, who looked like a shell of themselves after that loss to the Packers. Number 1 there for Green Bay. That's Micah Parsons, by the way, and we saw him get his first sack as a Green Bay Packer.
Wild.
In that matchup as well. Still crazy to say that Micah Parsons is a Packer. I don't know if I'll ever get used to that, right? As for the Lions, the offense just kind of looked out of sync, and the loss of their coordinators in Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson really seemed to show up in that Week 1 loss. So we're kind of looking here at the Lions offense since 2022, and they all led during the NFL during that span with Ben Johnson, who is no longer there. He is now the head coach of the Chicago Bears. So getting a look at the rest of the power rankings, 11.